What's up, guys? Chimp here with another market update, and it's been about, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks since I've done one. But I figured I'd record another one now that we've pumped and go a little bit over my thoughts here, and yeah, go from there. So, Bitcoin basically went as low as about 107, and it's been climbing since then. Delete this yellow box for now. And the question is, as always, what's next? And so I'll give you both sides. I think there's a possibility that we run up a bit more, but still think that, to give the TLDR, I still think that there's a lot of downside risk in this market, but you probably need some catalyst one way or another to sort of actualize it. And there probably is some degree of upside risk on Bitcoin, but yeah, let's go over all of it. So, let's first start off actually with the more bullish side of things, which is I talked about ETF flows slowing down, and they had slowed down basically for over a month. We've had a couple of days now of pretty strong ETF flows. And so, look, if you continue to get day after day, like if we get another wave, you know, like we saw here, $15 billion of ETF flows, like, Bitcoin's going to have to go make a new all-time high at that point, right? So clearly, like, this picking up again is somewhat bullish. Now, we have seen periods where ETF flows have gone up, stalled, picked up again for a bit, and then, that was sort of the top. That's what happened in January, February. But, this is one of those indicators that, you try to look for indicators that are predictive of the future. And this one is like one of those indicators that you can't forecast ETF flows a week from now, right? Looking at these numbers sort of just tells you what's happening in real time, or really like what's happened in the past 12 hours or so. So I think that's one thing that's bullish. The other thing that's bullish, obviously, is the stock market. And I think that's something that was like there's been 9 consecutive updates on the NASDAQ. And look, like if this thing continues to melt up every day, hard to imagine that, like, if you literally never get it, take it to an extreme, you literally never get a down day in stocks. Um, it makes it harder to flush crypto apes, right? So there's also that. Now let's go over some of the indicators that I've looked at in the past. So aggregate open interest, again, this thing basically made equal highs despite Bitcoin being, $8,000 below its prior highs, right? So open interest continues to rise, and that should be evident, when you look at all these altcoins and them pumping. The first time like I always talk about this, the first time we pumped to 123K, open interest was at 90 billion. We're at 108, 109 billion. And again, not to say it can't keep going up, but to me, like, this is a major caution flag. And like in terms of what I'd want to see to get bullish would be a massive wipe in open interest. Like typically you find lows when open interest is so wiped out that like you just have no one left long. And like that's clearly not the case here, right? Clearly you have a lot of people that are long. So to me, like that's one of the biggest reasons to be bearish. I mean, there's a lot of reasons in my mind, like, look at Pump Fund, for example, right? You have creators making all this money, etc. Um, so to me, I still think the market's very leveraged. Now, I'll go over some other quick small tidbits here, which is we know that there are certain buyers that are going to be in the market. So Metaplanet's going to be buying, about $1 billion worth. It's unclear whether they bought it already. Saylor has done this thing where like he'd announced that he's going to buy, but he actually has like some sort of deal where he buys beforehand. I don't know whether Metaplanet has that deal or not. So technically, this guy's they have a blackout period for another day or two. So the 17th. So we'll see what he announces then. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also, again, like I'm just gonna go to the HyperDash. I'm keeping an eye on some of these apes, and you have definitely seen some people getting like super aggressively short. This guy being one of them. Let me scroll down. And this guy just keeps getting liquidated. Actually, I think he just got liquidated again. I don't know if he got manually liquidated or if he got liquidated by the engine. But anyways, this guy's like been shorting the market, gets liquidated, reshorts lower, like gets pumps again, liquidated again. So keep an eye on some of these more degen apes. And in terms of like people to squeeze, basically you have like one degen ape on hyperliquid. Let me scroll down. And then you have a big short sort of sitting in the mid 120s. But again, on the long side, you basically have like this huge distribution of longs that you can liquidate from 100 to about 107. So I still think this is why I say like I think there's a lot of people that are potentially huntable. Like if we go to 100K, that's like 10,000 Bitcoin on hyperliquid to liquidate. So keeping an eye on that. Still think there's a lot of people that are huntable here, but again, you sort of need a catalyst or two to drive things lower. And I think like stocks going down would be a reasonable one. Though again, it's unclear whether stocks will go down. Another thing that I've noticed is hyperliquid. Let's see, uh, hyperliquid volumes, and I view hyperliquid sort of as this more retail thing. And someone could make an argument like, look, chimp, it's not retail that's really driving this; it's institutions, and that's essentially fair. But like, I view hyperliquid as one of these like retail-filled venues, and look at their volume, right? Like, basically since the peak on Bitcoin, their volume's been trending lower. So put it on a weekly or whatever. I guess you could say from this view it's going up a bit, but like the net trend from like November is that it's going up, which I guess is fair, but it certainly looks like the last month or so it's been steadily declining, which also makes sense. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm keeping a close eye on the markets. I still think we need to flush out ultimately at some point, but this is the way these markets work. They'll chop, 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 give hope, and then ultimately go lower. But again, I'm also always reevaluating. So for some reason, I just think like shit's just reset enough. Um, happy to change my bias then as well. So anyways, see what happens. Kind of one of these no man lands videos. But I expect there to be volatility in the coming days, so we'll make another one when that materializes. Anyways, guys, take care.